introduction. Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr. was born in Philly. He completed his elementary education here, and he went to Virginia Union University. He served in the military, and then after he was discharged, after he completed the rest of his education, he has 4 degrees, I believe. A learned man, a gifted preacher, and a sweet spirit. He became pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ in March 1st, 1972. And he served there for many years, and he grew that church from 83 people to over 1,000 people during the course of his ministry. 8,000 people. The ministry covered 40 different areas of ministry. You talk about doing the work, living the theology, making it relevant, making it clear, and allowing it to be impactful. Dr. Wright said in a recent article, I have tried to bring those 2 things, two different worlds together, the academy and the pew, in the context of pastoral ministry, in an effort to move an ignored people from hurt to healing and from hate to hope. My mission at Trinity has been to bring those worlds together by using the gospel of Jesus Christ and the life of Christ as a model for what is possible, for what might be, and of what our faith really is. The substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I don't know how you feel about this moment, but I'm excited to spend some time with Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright. We're going to talk about the Black prophetic place. We're talking about Reverend Jeremiah Wright. And there is something for us to hear and to learn and to understand. Reverend Jeremiah Wright. So Dr. Wright, see, I don't have an iPad, I have sleep paper. So I just want to start with a little biographical sketch. I just said a few words about who you are and locating you in terms of time and place. But now locate yourself theologically. How did you get to the place? What was your ministry formation like when you went from the place of being just a normal, everyday kind of man into becoming the lion and the giant in the pulpit, who was willing to preach the truth, even when it was unpopular? What was that transformative moment for you?
Probably before I got to Trinity Church, when I was somewhere between Howard University and assistant pastor of the church in Chicago before I was called to Trinity. I was telling Nick Talfaro yesterday on his radio program on WURD that going to school at Virginia Union, leaving Philadelphia, Nick asked me a loaded question about coming from Grace Baptist Church of Germantown, being middle income church, middle income, he said, middle class. How did you end up where you are? Well, I left Philadelphia and went to Virginia Union when the sit-ins were starting. I was in the sit-ins, and I saw the sit-ins, and I saw white Christians in Richmond, Virginia, who came to campus with us after the Union for Campus Christian Days. The same white Christians who, when we won picket lines and tall line Miller and Rose and Woolworths, same Christians that this fellowship would call you nigger. It was starting to make me rethink what I lived in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, I told Nick yesterday, I grew up in Germantown. I was a member of the Boy Scout troop, 358. And to go swimming, we could not go to the colored Y, we had to go to the white Y. One night a week, they let the colored kids come over with the merit badges and swimming. And they emptied the pool so we would contaminate whatever we would get in the next night. But it's why? What do you mean why? Do you know what the why is? What is it? I mean, Christian. Is this what Christianity is? Well, this is what I start questioning. Is this what Christianity is? Because this is a Christian school, and we work with kids from, it's called today BCU, Richmond Polytechnic Institute was called back then. Those Christians would come to our campus for Christian events, but when we got to where the rubber met the road in terms of integrating lunch counters and tall hunters and women, black women could not try on clothes in those stores. Woolworths, in fact, I got country-tized when they were up here, because that spring, I went January 59, 60. We boycotted Woolworths. Woolworths is not a local Richmond, Virginia store. It's not Mall, nor and Rose. It's not Tall Hamlet. It's Woolworths, 5 and dime store. We have one here on Shelton Avenue. Used to walk down Germantown Avenue to do that. In Richmond, we could not sit down in Woolworths. So we boycotted Woolworths at Virginia Union in the spring. I came over in the summer to organize the students here in Philly. We boycotted Woolworths in Philly. And all the members of my daddy's church and Mount Zion Baptist churches walking right across the picket line, telling us that's a southern problem. So us Negroes in the North, that's been good to us. Well, that's when the transformation started. Wait a minute, there's something missing here. There's something drastically wrong. Part of it is what Du Bois called miseducation. Wilson called miseducation of the black people, all people. His book is titled Miseducation of the Negro, but also what Du Bois talked about in terms of the color line and internalized hatred. That's right. And the talented tendency, some of us thinking us better than others of us. After all of that, in fact, it was a happy marriage. I was at Howard University. Now, a lot of people in Howard University today, they don't know the Howard University. When I was there, I'm 74 years old. Back in the day, the most important thing at Howard University was the Lincoln game. Howard Lincoln game. That's the most important game of the year. Howard University, Lincoln University. Right? I was there. Freddie Haynes would say serendipitously. Christian would say, was providentially. When Negroes turned black. Gospel music hit black college campuses for the first time since 1865. I don't know what Pastor Tyler is, but I might argue with him about paying me in Virginia Union. We were founded in 1865. He said it's the oldest school for blacks in the country. But from 1865 until 1968, blacks are not allowed to sing gospel music on black college campuses because the missionaries had taught us that was not sacred music. We sang anthems in the first half of the concert, and then we sang Negro spirituals in the second half of the concert. The Negro spirituals that we sang were not songs that sung by the Africans. Those were songs that were concertized, anthemically arranged to be approved by the dominant culture. No African ever stood up in the middle of Mississippi or Alabama Cotton and saying, "Come home to live with God too." We could not sing Common Meter, we could not sing Dr. Watts, we could not sing any of the songs White Walker writes about, we could not sing any gospel music, because gospel music was for the rhythms of the life. That's what I'm not eating. See, when you start singing gospel music, that spirit takes over, folks are falling out, passing out. No, that's low class, but we are educated. It will take off, and you know how to do it. And don't let me start on my 80 friends out in Mother Bethel. Because Mother Bethel, just like going north, Amy Zion in New York, Mother Bethel and the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Please remember, this church, Richard Allen Ashton Jones was dragged out of St. George's in 1787. The same year the Constitution was put together. And this city was very British in 1787. We had just fought the war in the 1787. The liturgy was British, the discipline was British, and the worship was British. Very British. Breathe on me, breath of God. When the AME Church moved south of Baltimore, we got down in South Carolina, the low country where you had a ring shop, it wasn't British down there. And something that Dr. Lights had talked about is very important. He granted for these short times, and she'll quotes it in her work. Bishop Daniel Alexander Payne, for whom Payne seminary name, couldn't stand black music because he went to Lutheran seminary. You talk about miseducation of the Negro. And the seminaries, like they taught us, that British or New England worship was the proper way to worship God. And when he got down to the low country, coming from Philadelphia and Baltimore, the high church, your home is still high church, you still stand for the glory of God. Wendell Williams said he was at an AME church south of Atlanta, in the inner city, doing the program. She said, amen, this next lady coming to us in her own way. I haven't met her, but there's Sister Gloria Patriot in the house. But we not only do the Decalogue, we rise for the glory of country, all right? He gets out to the low country, and them folk got the ring shout, which is the same ring shout that's still done today in Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal. All right? And Bishop Payne said we have got to stop and stamp out this fist and heel music, these slave ditties. The presiding elder said to him, now the bishop, without the beat, the spirit don't come. So that was not allowed in any of those schools, and all those schools were set up a missionary. Who taught at Payne in 1865? Wasn't no black professor with PhD who studied under Cornell West. You had white professors teaching white religion, white religious practices. At all of the black schools, not just Payne, Virginia Union, Howard Auburn. In 68, that changed. And when Negroes turned black in 68, Richard Smallwood, they formed the Howard University Gospel Choir, and they marched into Rankin Chapel with tambourines and washboards. Negroes started shouting and passing up. And the choir director, I will not call his name because Tyler Farragut on me yesterday, I called his name. The director of the famed Howard University Concerts Choir had a heart attack. I mean, a literal heart attack. Because you don't dishonor God with that low-class debauchery. Now, let's be honest, that's what the missionaries taught. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker. My mother went to her grave loving Handel's Messiah. She could not have a Christmas without hallelujah. For ye, my people. That's what the missionaries taught us. If she had heard, thank God she never got to hear Quincy Jones. Because that's drums. In fact, when she used to come to Chicago to sit in our church, my mother would sit as far away from the drums as she could. Because she knew the lightning was going to strike. She was blowing in the clear. She didn't want to be nowhere near the drums. That changed. 68. Trinity Church at the time was 7 years old, and it started by the denomination, a predominantly white denomination, for Negroes who knew how to worship properly. In Philadelphia, I think they call it the Congregational Church of New England, of Congregationalism. And 7 years into its existence, we had this nice little Negro worship. Seriously. 1 hour of worship. We were allowed 1 hour and 8 minutes on Community Sunday. No hooping, no hollering, no shouting. Anthems. Every now and then the Negro spiritual doing communion. Let us break bread together on our knees. And the congregation, and I've said this all over the nation, been saying it since '72, because it's very important for younger pastors who go into Christian churches trying to change those churches. The congregation made a decision to change before they called me. In fact, they came to the chairman of the search committee came to my house New Year's Eve, 1971, December 31st, and said, can you take us in this new direction? We want to be a black church in the black community, with black worship that attracts black people and black ministry that speaks to black community where we sit. Can you do that for us? I said, that's for the Reverend Brown.
I think what you're saying is really interesting, because I know there's still some black congregations that struggle with this. But how to have black music in the midst, especially of a white denomination. Now, I'm Episcopalian, and so you know there are a lot of black congregations that struggle with them as well. But I want to think about your ministry at Trinity for a minute, and think about the prophetic voice. Now, I'm being very aware of Dr. Pamela Lightsey, her reminder to us that it's not just a priestly class who possess the prophetic voice, but who are called to speak with that voice. We certainly know that you are one of those people who've done that. And you paid a price to do it.
Really? What's a guy named Gibbs say, you think?
So what I want to do is to play an excerpt from your sermon, The Fall of Jerusalem.
The day of Jerusalem's fall.
The day of Jerusalem's fall. All right? And so as they cue that, I want to read you the passage from which she is speaking, and it's Psalm 137, right? And it's 9 verses, but I think I want to read that, so at least you'll get the context of this portion of this sermon that we're going to hear. And this is what it says. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept, when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung up our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs, and our tormentors asked for mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How could we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand wither. Let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth, if I do not remember you. If I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. Remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem's fall. How they said, tear it down, down to its foundations. O daughter of Babylon, you devastator. Happy shall they be who pay you back what you have done to us. Happy shall they be who take your little ones and dash them against the rock. Now, if you have never heard this sermon in its totality, you need to do that. But we're just going to play a little bit because we want to hear the prophetic voice in action. And so then we're going to have a conversation about what we hear. All right, we're ready.
But before I share with you what the Lord showed me, I want to give you one of my little faith footnotes. Visitors, I often give faith footnotes so that our members don't lose sight of the big picture. Let me give you a little faith footnote. Turn to your neighbor and say, faith footnote. I heard Ambassador Peck on an interview yesterday. Did anybody else see him or hear him? He was on Fox News. This is a white man, and he was upsetting the Fox News commentators to no end. He pointed out, you see him, a white man, he pointed out, an ambassador, that what Malcolm X said when he got silenced by Elijah Muhammad was in fact true. America's chickens are coming home to roost. We took this country by terror away from the Sioux the Apache, the Arawak, the Comanche, the Arapaho, the Navajo. Terrorism. We took Africans from their country to build our way of ease and kept them enslaved and living in fear. Terrorism. We bombed Grenada and killed innocent civilians, babies, non-military personnel. We bombed the black civilian community of Panama with stealth bombers and killed unarmed teenagers and toddlers, pregnant mothers and hard-working fathers. We bombed Gaddafi's home and killed his child. Blessed are they who bash your children's head against a rock. We bombed Iraq. We killed unarmed civilians trying to make a living. We bombed a plant in Sudan to pay back for the attack on our embassy. Killed hundreds of hard-working people, mothers and fathers who left home to go that day not knowing that they never get back home. We bombed Hiroshima. We bombed Nagasaki. And we nuked far more than the thousands in New York and the Pentagon. And we never batted an eye. Kids playing in the playground, mothers picking up children after school, civilians, not soldiers, people just trying to make it day by day. We have supported state terrorism against the Palestinians and black South Africans, and now we are indignant because the stuff we have done overseas is now brought right back into our own front yards. America's chickens are coming home to roost. Violence begets violence. Hatred begets hatred. And terrorism begets terrorism. A white ambassador said that, y'all, not a black militant. Not a reverend who preaches about racism. An ambassador whose eyes are wide open and who's trying to get us to wake up and move away from this dangerous precipice upon which we are now poised. The ambassador said the people that we are wounded don't have the military capability we have, but they do have individuals who are willing to die and to take thousands with them, and we need to come to grips with that. Let me stop my faith footnote right there and ask you to think about that over the next few weeks if God grants us that many days. Turn back to your neighbor and say, footnote is over. Now, come on back to my question to the Lord. What should our response be right now in light of such an unthinkable act? I asked the Lord that question Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I was stuck in Newark, New Jersey. No flights were leaving LaGuardia, JFK, or Newark Airport. On the day that the FAA opened up the airports to bring into the cities of destination those flights that had been diverted because of the hijacking, a scare in New York closed all 3 regional airports, and I couldn't even get here for Mr. Radford's father's funeral. And I asked God, what should our response be? I saw pictures of the incredible. People jumping from 110th floor. People jumping from the roof because the stairwells and the elevators above 89th floor were gone, no more. Black people jumping to a certain death. People holding hands, jumping. People on fire, jumping. And I asked the Lord, what should our response be? I read what the people of faith felt in 551 BC. But this is a different time. This is a different enemy. This is a different world. This is a different terror. This is a different reality. What should our response be? And the Lord showed me 3 things. Let me share them with you quickly, and I'm going to leave you alone to think about the faith footnote. Number 1, the Lord showed me that this is a time for self-examination. As I sat 900 miles away from my family and my community of faith, 2 months after my own father's death, God showed me that this was a time for me to examine my relationship with God, my own relationship with God, my personal relationship with God. I submit to you that it's the same for you. Folk flocked to the church in New Jersey last week. You know, that foxhole religion syndrome kicked in. That emergency cord religion, you know that little red box you see pull in case of emergency? it showed up full force. Folk who ain't thought about coming to church for years were in church last week. I heard that midweek prayer services all over this country, which are poorly attended 51 weeks a year, were jam-packed all over the nation. The week of the hijackings, the 52nd week, filled with folk. But the Lord said, this ain't the time for you to be examining other folks' relationship. This is a time of self-examination. The Lord said to me, how is our relationship doing, Jeremiah? How often do you talk to me personally? How often do you let me talk to you privately? How much time do you spend trying to get right with me, or do you spend all your time trying to get other folk right? This is a time for me to examine my own relationship with God. Is it real or is it fake? Is it forever or is it for show? Is it something that you do for the sake of the public, or is it something that you do for the sake of eternity? This is a time to examine my own, and a time for you to examine your own relationship with God. Self-examination. Then this is the time, in light of the unbelievable tragedy, this is the time to examine my relationship with my family. Self-examination. As soon as the first plane hit the World Trade Center, I was on the phone talking to Marcus Cosby about him flying up there to preach for me while I could fly home to do Mr. Badford's service. He said, "You got your television on?" I said, "No, what channel?" He said, "No matter what channel." And as I turned it on and watched the first tower burn, I saw the second fly into it. As soon as the first plane hit the World Trade Center, I called home and I called my mother. Raymond was taking Janila to the school bus. My mother's phone was busy. And the thought hit me. Suppose you could never talk to her again. Suppose you never see Janila, Janet, Jerry, Stevie, Jazzy, Jay, or Raymond ever again. What is the quality of the relationship between you and your family? The Soul Station in New York kept playing Stevie Wonder's song, these three words. When is the last time you took the time to say to your family, "Honey, I love you"? And then that family thought led me to my extended family, and my church family. We fight, we disagree, we fall out, we have diametrically opposed views on some critical issues, but I still love you. When is the last time you said that to your church family? When your daddy died? Well, that was 2 months ago, Reverend. You need to say that every chance you get. So let me just say it to you now, I love y'all. I love you. I love you. Listen. Don't clap. Turn to the person sitting next to you, worshiping next to you, and say it while you have a chance. Say, "I love you." Listen. This past week was a grim reminder of the fact that you might not have the chance to say that next week. So say it now, "I love you." I had two deacons. When they realized I could not fly home, Dedrick wanted to be anonymous, but Dedrick Roberts and Deacon Reggie Crenshaw, they got in a car and drove 12 straight hours, put my bags in the trunk, put me in the back seat, turned right around and drove back 12 hours because they love me. And I want them to know I love you, man. I love you. I love you. I thank God for you. Turn back and tell your neighbor one more time, "I love you." This is what a church family is. The beloved community. A community of love. Fights, yes. Disagreements, yes. Falling out, yes. Different viewpoints, yes. Doctrinal disputes, yes. But love that is of God and given by God, who loved us so much that while we were yet sinners, God gave God's Son rather than give up on us. This is a time of self-examination. A time to examine our personal relationships with God, a time to examine our personal relationships with our families, and a time to examine our personal relationships with our extended family, the family of God. Then the Lord showed me that this is not only a time for self-examination, this is also a time for social transformation. Now, they ain't gonna put me on PBS for the nation to see this. This is around the Chicagoland era. It won't be on national cable. But this is a time for social transformation. And this is going to be the hardest step we have to take. But now is the time for social transformation. we have got to change the way we have been doing things. We have got to change the way we have been doing things as a society, social transformation. We have got to change the way we have been doing things as a country, social transformation. We have got to change the way we have been doing things as an arrogant, racist, military superpower, social transformation. We just can't keep messing over people and thinking that can't nobody do nothing about it. They have shown us that they can and that they will. And let me suggest to you that rather than figure out who we're going to declare war on, maybe we need to declare war on racism. Maybe we need to declare war on injustice. Maybe we need to declare war on greed. Those same lawmakers you saw gathered at the Capitol praying are the same lawmakers who just passed a $1.3 trillion gift for the rich. Maybe we need to rethink the way we do politics and declare war on greed. Maybe we need to declare war on AIDS. In 5 minutes, the Congress found $40 billion to rebuild New York and the families of those who died in sudden death. Do you think we can find the money to make medicine available for people who are dying of slow death? Maybe we need to declare war on the healthcare system that leaves the nation's poor with no health coverage. Maybe we need to declare war on the mishandled educational system and provide quality education to everybody, every citizen, based on their ability to learn, not their ability to pay. This is a time for social transformation. We can't go back to doing business as usual and treating the rest of the world like we've been treating it. This is a time for self-examination. And this is a time for social transformation.
Come on, Doc.
But then ultimately,
when they're listening to it on tape and they're doing what you tell them. You know, when we were planning this conference, and we were really being very intentional about who we invited, and we were very intentional about the message because we wanted to locate it within the Black radical tradition. And because we recognize that the Black radical tradition is the foundation for most of the other, all of the other traditions or movements for social liberation and social justice. So I'm going to take this back to the Black church for a minute now. So when we were planning this particular night, a couple of us were sitting around and we were having a conversation. And they said, you know, there'll be some folks who will come to this event because Jeremiah Wright will be here, but they won't come to the rest of the conference. And we raised the question, why? They said, well, you know, black church folks are afraid of that word socialism. Now, the conference clearly has a socialist leaning. There's no doubt about it. Now, so we can have such a rich tradition. There's a rich religious tradition of democratic socialism. I mean, Martin Luther King ended up in that place. Why is it that the Black church in particular has a hard time dealing with that? And how can we, at one hand, pray that we're going to go out and transform the world, but we're afraid to attack the structures that's holding us back?
Thank you. That's a powerful, important question. All of my colleagues, Hendricks, Lightsy, West, and a whole host of others, Renee, attack that same issue and talk about that same issue. I would hate to give a broad sweeping answer. Let me couch my response by saying, in my opinion, the politics of respectability and having bought into what whites have taught us are the lines for religion. What's religious, and you don't deal in politics. Those two things combined in a terrible way. Jerome Ross, Toby Hendricks, and other biblical scholars point out, in fact, Dr. Lacey said it tonight, the Bible was written from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, under one of 6 different kinds of oppression. Every word in the Bible was written under oppression. Egyptian oppression, Assyrian oppression, Babylonian oppression, Persian oppression, Greek oppression. The whole New Testament was written under Roman oppression. Yeah. With all of the commentators, except following Black liberation theology and its birth, and the plethora of Black scholars, Terry Marshall, Kelly Brown Douglas, on and on and on. Prior to that, prior to Elwood Hendricks, prior to Kano Felder, all of the commentaries, all of the Sunday school literature, all of the AME was approved by the oppressors. Written by the oppressors, not the oppressors. So the oppressors, again, Obi talked about it in his keynote, his colleague, L.H. Welch, one of Dr. Lacey's professors, L.H. Welch down at ITC, rephrases what Obi said scholarly about 325 Constantine conversion. L.H. Welch says, once Constantine pulled Christianity out of Africa into Europe, he pulled it away from its foundation, from its founder, and it had nothing to do with Jesus ever said. So the Black church is afraid. Most Black Christians across denominational lines have been taught that Christianity and capitalism are synonymous. We didn't touch on it tonight. I thought I was going to go there. One of the most powerful things that Dr. Obi Hendricks has written is his critique of contemporary gospel music, as opposed to and compared to the music that came out of our tradition, the Black radical tradition, where it was our, us, and we're marching. Come on now. Now it's take me to Burger King. Take me to Burger King. Don't have much to bring. Tear a burger to pieces and some onion rings. God favored me. God bless me. Favor ain't fair. That's capitalism. That is not Christianity. That's capitalism. And we buy into the $65 billion debt. That's capitalism. Keeping us up, propping us up. I get tickled every year after conference, especially with the sisters, because they're talking about the way sisters are treated in the Black church tradition, the prophetic as we try to be. When the sisters start like needing others, say, oh, just close up your pocketbook. You want your voice to get heard? Come offering time, don't give them. You know, the women on the backbone of the church close up their pocketbook, watch things change. And again, the media, I was telling, we didn't have time, Nick Talafar and I yesterday to talk about it, but what the media has done in putting the focus on certain types of ministries and ignoring all those hardworking sisters, hardworking brothers who pastor 200, 250 people every week. Not the mega church, the media has done the job to such an extent that, go back to the McCarthy era, socialism, most blacks, and Anglicans are intelligent, so conducted an informal survey in the Anglican Church. Ask them to tell you the difference between socialism and communism. They equate the two. Just like when you get to the LGBTQ problem in the black church, we equate pedophilia with homosexuality. We equate circular. I ain't no communist. I ain't no communist. I don't want to go. Look what happened to Paul Rose. Look what happened to Renee. Look what happened. Look what happened. Look what they did to our black leaders who were, we, the United States of America, just took Nelson Mandela off the terrorist list. Because he was identified with the ANC, which is communist. So that fear of being labeled, you talk about socialism. First of all, the average Christian cannot describe or define for you, black or white, what socialism is. As they go to the post office and mail a letter. Red herring kind of painted with an ugly brush, and people run from it.
Yeah.
That's my.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I know one of your sermons that I listened to was called "Confusing Government with Our God." You know, and even though, and I listened to your message, and you were clearly talking about the government that supported slavery, the government that decimated the Indian population, the indigenous population, the government that is involved in making so many people of color's lives miserable, right? But I'm also thinking that, and you said when we confuse that as being the God, so we kind of celebrate those things. We say that everything, we give America a pass for being that kind of place. I have to wonder then, the black church then, are we also confusing then politics with God? Or are we afraid of politics for some reason? I mean, my sense is that the church needs to have a political voice.
If it did, we'd still be in slavery. There's the agitation from the Christian, from people of faith, not just Christians. One of the things that I love talking about, and I'm anxiously waiting, Leslie, for this last panel discussion because we have some Muslim sisters on it. That when we start talking about social change and revolution, we skip all over the fact that the Mali revolution in Brazil was led by Muslims. And we tend, and again, I love this one too. Again, that's why I'm looking for this last panel. Again, the average member of your church and my church. First of all, they think Pentecostalism is like Presbyterianism. Palestinian, all Palestinian. They don't know they're Palestinian Christians, they're Palestinian Jews, they're Palestinian Muslims, and they're Palestinian atheists. And they hate these Muslims. All right, tell me, put a gun to your head, or your members, and tell me the difference. What is a Shia and a Sunni? What is the difference? What's a Hanafi? What's a Mahdi? What is the difference? Oh, they just use them tower heads. They're all the same. They don't know what Islam is. Have no clue. But again, once it's painted with an ugly brush, we just know that's the enemy. One of like Pope Henry's, one of the most powerful things I told our congregation in 2002. By the way, that sermon you heard was 2001. That the media was playing in 2008, trying to scare white folk from voting for Obama. That in 2002, I told our congregation, Duke and Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Duke, Chapel Hill, Billy Graham country. The president was so appalled at how many Christians at that college did not know the difference between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, did not understand what was going on over the stake in Pakistan and Yemen anyway. That he made mandatory, to the chagrin of the Board of Trustees, a mandatory course for a full year, Islam 101, Islam 102, so that they can get the basic fundamentals of the faith. Trustees were ready to fire him. And he said, at the end of the year, I'm happy to report out of a student body of 12,000, there has not been one conversion. said, in fact, Cornell was so deep, y'all, listen. Cornell was so deep that he forgets stuff he said. I turned around and whispered to him, and Obi refused to talk about hair. I said he needed to quote Cornel West on that, and I quoted and direct Cornel West. He said, looked at me like, what? I said, you said that. I said that. And the interview with Jim Cone, interviewing Cornell about his latest book, and those 6 historic figures from 20th century black leaders. One of the last questions Cone asked Dr. West was, how do you compare the black leaders in your book with the black leaders today and with Jesus? And Dr. West said, the people I chose, Omega, Malcolm X, those people did not set out to be black leaders. They set out to be lovers of people. And because they loved the people elevated them to the position of leadership. Unlike leaders today who set out to be leaders of people. And then in classic Western style, he stroked his beard, he said, now when it comes to Jesus, can you imagine Jesus hosting a weekly MSNBC show? that the church, as Obi said, and as Dr. Lysa said, the prophetic voice has to keep an arm's length and critique government. Tutu, I believe, Tutu said, it surprises a lot of people that God is not a Christian. Nor is he a Democrat or a Republican. And we start identifying in the church. We don't want to get with Republican, with Democrat. No, we're pro-justice. We're talking about equality and equity for all God's people. You take the largest, used to be, still is, largest black denomination in the country, J.H. Jackson, the National Baptists, who were adamantly opposed to Dr. King in the Civil Rights Movement. Right? That you can't identify with them Democrats. Well, a lot of people, as they talk I listen to those theological discussions with great interest, because most people didn't know J.H. Jackson was a rabid Republican. That's what even when he done other Democrats. And he was all the way Republican. He rejoiced when Carter lost. And the best president in the history of the country,
I want to think about leadership for a minute. We think about the young activists, the ones who are now on the street and raising their voices and protesting. They have a completely different leadership structure than we remember from the Civil Rights era. And we know how important the black church was, the black spiritual voice was, even though they were slow to the boat with Martin King. But they did eventually get on to some extent, and their witness was really important. My sense now, when we think about what's happening with Black Lives Matter and these other groups that are working for justice now, is that they don't see the need for the black prophetic voice in the way that we're talking about it, or they don't see the need for leadership in the old sense. My sense is with this is that the church is falling away with its authority or with its presence or with its voice relative to that population. And so now I'm going to get back to what Dr. Lightson said as well. So how can we support those groups of young people? I mean, and I know financially is one piece of it, but if we can't find a place where we can understand or absorb into their leadership structure, then how can we support them with our presence? Right? At this point, the church is just turning, it seems like it's not engaged, or even perhaps to a certain extent turning its back on it. I mean, we recognize that there's a need for the struggle, there's no question about it. But I don't think we're getting to the streets too much.
I agree, and I was trying to hurriedly tell Nick Talafari yesterday, I have a different perspective on some of what you just said instead of what he said because of my age. Let's go back to what I said earlier. I was picketing Woolworths on Shelton Avenue when church members were walking across the picket line. The church ain't never been in support. With the exceptions of Gabriel Prosser, Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, most black people in the church found out who did my research, even at Mother Bethel was when the Charleston Nine were killed. And they sort of watered that down and didn't tell you who did my research really was, what he did, what his plan was, nor did they tell you how it got thwarted. It got thwarted by saved and sanctified Christians, just like Brother told Master. Let me tell you what them doctors get ready to do on that. And the church has always been wishy-washy like that. Yeah, we supported King after he was dead. Snick's leadership structure was so very similar to Black Lives, not only in terms of who is the leader this week, but also in terms of politics of respectability. You ever heard of Snick? You know the language they use. Yes, sir. It makes Black Lives Matter sound like Sinbad as opposed to Richard Pryor. Because again, that holds us up. Well, who is the leader? Okay, I will tell you who the leader of Black Lives Matter is. The Black Lives Matter movement is as soon as you tell me who the white leader is. Who the white leader? Hillary? Bernie? Cruz? Rapidly becoming Trump. Very scary. The need or the incessant desire to find out who the leader is, going back to what I think Pamela said it, so we can buy them off. But I think, again, you're right in terms of the church not being on the streets with them, the church not even talking to them. And the church being afraid to talk to them. This is live. Let me quote one of her professors. Regan's Earl. Let me quote Regan's Earl. Here's what, in 1999, at Morehouse ITC, there was a conference on the black, no, pardon me, it was at Vanderbilt, Forrest Harris sponsored it. The black church confronting the 21st century, and Regan's Earl was presenting it. He was talking about our saying we can't speak the language of our young people. We don't know the language of our young people. But the truth is, those young people are in our homes, and we do speak it well. We understand it well. We just get tongue-tied when it comes to public folk. They don't get tongue-tied. Many of us, my age, I'm not going to blame you, we learned boundaries. Like my age, who was that? Sister Lightsey is a relative of Mom Navy. Mom Navy, Red Fox, we loved it. We even loved, in my young adult years, we loved Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor did anybody, he was Dracula. What you doing? You put it in the people window. Sure man, boy. But we didn't say that around Mama and them. Because we knew boundaries. Alright? Our young people don't have no boundaries. And Regan's Earl was talking about how we have boundaries. They look at, what are you talking about? Regan's Earl, for those of you who do not know, Professor of the ethics at Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, he was lecturing at the conference and he said, I am a seminary professor. That's what I do for a living. What I do for my church membership is I teach a GED class in Southeast Georgia in the project. 3 courses a year, 12 weeks each course. And you get to know the kids in a 12-week period. And one day, while writing on the chalkboard just before class started, he was writing on the chalkboard, starting at the top. He said, I'm a seminary professor, I'm not GQ. I don't know how to hook it up in terms of what you wear. He said, I had a green shirt, I had a brown slacks, and I think, brown, and some purple socks. And when I lifted my arm up like that, my trousers came up. So you could see my socks. Billy, Johnny, and Bobby sitting right behind me. They sit there every week. This is on the 8th week of class. Johnny says to Bobby, "I'm all looking at purple stuff." He said, I turned around. I said, hold on, young man. There's a woman sitting behind you. Apologize to the sister behind you. We don't use profanity in front of women. He said, I didn't use no profanity, baby. Don't make me put you out. If you cursed in front of this young lady, we don't do that in front of young ladies. Just apologize. He said, Prof, I didn't curse. He said, you want to get put out of class? Bobby turns to Johnny and says, will you tell this motherfucker I didn't curse? That's how they talk. And that scares. That scares a lot of church folk. The strong presence of the LGBT community scares a lot of church folk. But we need to be talking to them, and we keep forgetting the first principle of equality. All be the same, but we need to talk with them and work and give them kind of not financial support, yes, but some stuff we learn as old people, I think. And we need to learn and listen and learn from them. Some stuff they know as young people. I was talking to a preacher Sunday. The man is 65 years old. And he did not know. He's a great pastor. He did not know. He did not know people take reefer and put it in cookies. That's how it smells. You don't have that smell all over. Y'all used to put rum in your fruitcake at Christmas. But people in that case is at Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Admit this, but we're going to have to wrap this up. I just feel like we could go on for a bit longer.
We have an exciting panel coming behind us.
Yes, we have the second panel is ready to come. And Dr. Wright, so you said that we need to share the wisdom of the more seasoned activists with the younger activists.
Yeah.
That we need to listen and we need to learn from each other. And so I'm happy to tell you, you probably know that that's the purpose of this conference. That's the